Hello, and welcome back to another Wild Nights podcast.
Yippee! We made it to episode 2.
I know, shocking, isn't it?
I know, it's crazy. As always, this is the Wild Nights podcast, hosted by a Knights fan.
And a Wild fan.
And we're covering all the news, notes, and wacky wonderfulness that is the things that happen in Vegas and Minnesota hockey. And when there's nothing going on, like the case is today, we cover the rest of the wacky, wonderful news around the hockey world. And today, the Olympic world. And no, we're not going to talk about the Winter Olympics, even though I am very excited for that. The games of the 33rd Olympiad are wrapping up today in Paris, France.
Is this the 33rd?
Yeah, 33rd.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, somebody can yell at me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I'm right about that one since I take my Olympics somewhat seriously. There's not a lot of hockey news to talk about this time around, especially with the Knights in the Wild being fairly quiet. Especially since it is the dog days of summer. We're still at least 3-ish weeks away from the opening of training camps. And, aside from speculating about opening night rosters and stuff like that, there's not really a lot to talk about. However, once we get past our little bit about the Summer Olympics, which is how we're going to open today's show, we're going to talk about some of the things that, some of the important news and events that happened over the course of the summer, especially early in the summer. And the only reason I want to cover them, they're newsworthy, but also I tend to make a lot of fun of them. I make fun of a lot of these news stories. And I don't want you guys as the listening audience to be left out of the inside joke if you aren't fully up to date on all the hockey weirdness that can happen over a summer. But anyway, unless you've got anything to throw in there, Mrs. Wild fan, we can start talking about the end of the Paris Olympics.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect place to start.
Yippee! Because I think as of recording this, the closing ceremonies in France just started, like literally 5 minutes ago.
My guess would be yes.
But the U.S., the United States of America, had one heck of an Olympics, didn't they?
They really did.
What was it, 40 gold medals? I think the final tally was 40.
Almost, if not quite.
I think it got all the way to 40. I know I know it was like 40 golds over 100 medals total.
Yeah, the last time I checked the medal count, it was 120. But
Crushing it. That's
before the whole...
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. The medal total is still subject to change coming out of Paris, but we'll get there in a minute. Mm-hmm. The big news, the U.S. did not lose to China in total medal count. However, if you're listening to this podcast in Beijing, China, 1, how you doing? 2, how'd you find us? And 3, you guys think you guys won the medal count because it is very common that the Chinese government claims the medals won by Taiwan as the part of the Chinese total versus everywhere else in the world, which doesn't quite recognize that. So we're going to open up with a little bit of controversy with that statement, but let's go.
You love controversy, so don't
really
act like you don't.
I'm kind of goading a fight on this one.
You do that quite a bit.
I do. But let's get out of geopolitics and back into sports. Let's start with one of the headlines of the Olympics. Noah Lyles winning the 100-meter gold by 0.005 seconds.
Man, that was a race.
What a race. Like I aspire to win, to be able to run as fast as that guy does. And I also aspire to have as much swagger as he has.
He is unapologetically himself.
Well, I mean, track and field is a fairly boring sport, like a boring genre of sports anyway. It's really exciting when you watch it during the Olympics, but it kind of lacks personality. Like, since Usain Bolt kind of went away, you kind of lost the character factor that you get at the Olympics.
For those of you who can't see me, which is all of you, I have a very confused look on my face.
Why?
Because you just said track and field is boring.
It's boring to talk about. It's really fun to watch, but it's like, you don't really, if I'm flipping through the channels in the middle of summer when all the track and field events happening, I'm not stopping on NBC to watch the World Track and Field Championships.
I am.
Well, you're better off for it. I might after this Olympics because there's a lot of storylines that panned out that are super interesting.
Honestly, track and field, that's actually probably the thing I look forward to most about the Summer Olympics.
It is. I think the U.S. picked up 33 medals on the track.
That would not surprise me based on how many people we had out there. I think
it's the most they ever won. There was that guy that won bronze in the 5,000 and 10,000 for the first time in U.S. history. The men's and women's 4x100 or 4x400 relays went back to back on the last night of the track meet, winning gold. You got Rai Benjamin winning gold. You've got Noah Lyles winning gold and then getting COVID and then getting bronze in the 200 and then not having COVID. I don't really know where to start with that guy.
Let's talk about Noah Lyles in the 200 meter.
I didn't watch it. It's the one track event I didn't watch fully.
Really?
I only saw the highlights. I saw he lost to Bolo or something, and he came in third, and another American came in second. And he was not doing great, and then he was jumping around, and then he ran the race, and then he fell down and had to get wheeled off the track.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story. Honestly, there was some video going around beforehand on broadcasting with him in a mask sitting in the standing in the tent waiting for the field. I mean, apparently he has COVID. I'm not sure if that's still accurate.
I mean, it may not be accurate anymore, but I would like to. I want to believe that there was something medically wrong with him because of the two events that he was trying to get, the 100 and the 200 double, the 100 was his weakest event. The 200 is the event he's supposed to be the best in the world
No,
at.
I mean, for sure, because in the 100 meter, I mean, he pulled ahead at the last possible second with that.
Yep.
And I thought he had a shot at gold. So there had to have been something going on.
Yeah, either he just ran a bad race, which can happen, but he's, with that much confidence in oneself, I find it hard to believe that he ran a truly bad race. So it wouldn't shock me if he was dealing with the effects of COVID. I mean, I had COVID while I was an athlete in college, and I remember how much it put me on my butt. I remember I didn't want to move. I didn't want to walk, let alone sprint. So if he really was dealing with some COVID effects, it's a miracle he even got on the podium.
Honestly, he had to have been sick or something because he was wearing a mask. He ran. He went back to the medic tent right after. Like, obviously, there was something wrong. So the fact that he even ran at all, one, it kind of begs the question of when you are an Olympic athlete or when you do have this, like, possibly once in a lifetime or once in a career opportunity, do you let sickness get you down and do, the thing that you're supposed to do? Or do you take your shot?
Hey, he's a world champion. He's an Olympic gold medalist. And I don't think he's really going to care that much that he took the bronze medal because he's a multi-time Olympic medalist. So
yeah, but what about the other people in the race? And what about the people setting it up? And what about those people?
No,
it's a valid question.
The fact I wonder how much NBC Universal was shaking in their boots because they have used Noah Lyles to advertise the Olympics so hard here in the States that if he didn't run in the 200 final, I think they would have I don't even want to know what would have happened. I mean, you had Mike Tirico do a little bit of an oopsie and misidentify the flag of, I think it was Martinique, as the flag of Palestine. So he did a little bit of an oopsie there. NBC kind of had a rough last few days of the Olympic Games. And
which is really interesting because they're the ones basically streaming all of it.
I mean, Tirico, he noted it, fixed it right after the commercial break. So he's a professional at this, but NBC's done a very good job at the Olympics, and I really hope they do the same kind of stuff in the 26 Winter Olympics in Italy, especially with the NHL coming back to that. I'm gonna divert really quickly from a recap of the Paris Olympics to say something I really, really want to see NBC do at the 26 Winter Olympics. There's one thing I want.
Okay.
One thing.
Which is what?
Convince Doc Emmerich to come out of retirement. Please. Please. I need it. My heart needs it.
I'm sure you're not the only one that thinks that.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll get back to the Paris Olympics. I think we can leave the track and knowing that it was a very well as expected track meet for the United States.
Yep, and I'm going to let you geek out on this next part a little bit because this is your second love.
Yes, this is my second love. We have to talk about Scotty Scheffler winning the gold medal in golf. The United States.
That man was crying on the podium.
Dude, oh my God. I watched that video. It gets me right in the feels.
Wasn't he straight up sobbing?
Oh God, straight up sobbing. Got to the last little bit of the national anthem and he just breaks.
I mean, but think about how emotional it is as an Olympian or as as a sports person. You get to this big moment, similar to probably, someone winning the Stanley Cup for once in their career.
Yep.
Or getting gold for once in your career.
Yep. No,
how is that going to feel? I mean, that weight is huge.
What's crazy is Scotty Scheffler is the number one golfer in the world, obviously. He won the Masters 2 years ago. He won the Masters this year. He's been the best player in the world for the better part of 2 years now. He's won 7 tournaments this year. And
that man's on fire.
And if we want to break down Scotty Scheffler's season up until the Olympics, give
everyone a recap for who don't know what we know.
He wakes up to start the year world number 1. He wins a few tournaments early in the year. Then he goes to Augusta National and wins the Masters. And he becomes one of the first repeat champions. I think he might have been, scratch that. He went to the Masters, he won. But before that, he became one of the first players, or maybe the first player ever, to win the Players' Championship back-to-back. That's at TPC Sawgrass, the Island Green. You don't even have to be a golfer to know about the Island Green. It's awesome. I've been there. I played it myself. I did not put it in the water. Anyway, so he wins the Players, he wins the Masters, he wins a couple of tournaments. He goes to play in the PGA Championship, and he gets arrested.
In Kentucky.
Spends some time in jail, goes out, finishes top 10 in that tournament, I believe.
Why did he get arrested? For those people who don't know.
Well, he got arrested because there was a situation outside the golf course where a volunteer got hit by a bus and was killed, unfortunately. And in the ensuing traffic jam, he left. He hadn't gotten his notice from the PGA of America yet, saying, oh, by the way, we pushed tee times back to deal with the traffic. He gets there. He's doing what he was told to do. He's in a clearly marked press vehicle with his credentials showing, goes to go around to get into the front gate of the course, and a police officer stops him. And it's not entirely clear what happens because the police officer didn't have his body cam on. But he kind of allegedly dragged the police officer on the running boards of his Chevy Tahoe.
With the officer grabbing on.
With the officer grabbing onto the window.
That's important to note.
That is the important distinction, yes.
Yep.
And so long story short, he gets arrested for assaulting a police officer, spends a few hours in jail, gets back, plays the tournament, winds up finishing okay, and then he comes back and wins a few tournaments immediately after the PGA. And then there was a joke running around the golf community on Twitter saying the only thing that could stop Scottie Scheffler from winning tournaments right now was his wife, because his wife was very pregnant at the time, and they have since had their first kid. So in the year 2024, he's won the Players, the Masters 7 times, had a kid, become a new dad, and he's now Olympic gold medalist after being in like 4th going into the back 9, shooting one of the lowest rounds in Olympic golf history to beat the field by 1. This man is on another level.
Is this the one where him and his wife called off a divorce as well?
No, that was Rory.
Okay,
that
different.
Also happened.
That's a different one.
That also happened this year. And if he ever wins another major again, we're going to talk about that.
You can tell how much I actually pay attention to golf, guys.
But anyway, I will get off my soapbox about the Olympic golf tournament. Mind you, actually, one more thing. It's nice to see an American win. It's nice to see an American win at Club de Golf National, because that's where the U.S. got absolutely creamed at the Ryder Cup a few years ago. So it felt good to finally get our validation that an American can win on that godforsaken golf course. It hurts. It hurts my soul. But anyway.
Okay.
Anyway.
Are you done geeking out now?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay, awesome.
We can move from
we can
move from the links to the gym.
Yes.
The gymnastics team.
Yeah, one of the other things that I love to watch.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
The women's team won gold for the team competition.
Yep, all-around team.
As I don't want to say as was expected, because Brazil put up a good fight.
We have some pretty great people on our gymnastics team.
Yeah.
And with Simone Biles, which everyone knows who that is at this point, and if you don't, you probably don't pay attention to sports, so you're probably not listening to this podcast.
Simone Biles, Jordan Childs.
But Simone has also been around for a while, so it's really nice to see her kind of taking the lead.
Yeah, especially with what happened in Tokyo when she got the twisties and had to pull out of the competition.
You know what? I think that she put a lot of pressure on herself, but I'm very proud of her for doing it. Yeah, it cost the U.S. some medals and some...
But it actually almost cemented her legacy in U.S. gymnastics, because she since came back, won gold in the all-around team
I think it says something about the fact that an Olympian, when they're performing and they just know that they're not going to perform, to pull themselves. Like, that takes a lot of strength and a lot of consideration. So I applaud her for doing that.
Yeah, and amazing. And in the year and in the Olympic cycle that she was out for, the world kind of caught up with her, because I'm pretty sure that's the only gold medal she won was in the team competition, because she got silver on the floor. Actually, I think she won vault. I think she got gold in the vault.
Yeah, she did.
Okay, so...
Because we had Carrie took bronze in vault, yeah.
And you're going to notice it's a theme of other Olympians for the U.S. gymnastics team getting bronze. Well, we think it's a theme
Poor
because
Jordan Childs.
We got to talk about the women's floor exercise because that's the controversy of the week right now, and it's still not set.
No, like within the last day.
We alluded to it by saying the medal count for the U.S. wasn't set, and that's because Jordan Childs may not get to keep her bronze medal from the floor exercise.
They have actually said that as of 2 hours ago that Romania should have gotten third.
Well, that's what the Court of Arbitration said is that so Childs needed to get a score. I think it was like a review done for her score. So
what happened was her difficulty rating, I believe it was challenged because they said, oh, it should be 0.1 more than it already is.
Yeah, and that 0.1 points doesn't sound like a lot, but it was the difference between fifth and third at the time?
I believe her score was 13.666 approximately. Yep. And Romania's was 13.7.
Yeah.
So it was so close. It was mere fraction of a point.
So they do the review. They give the Brazilian gymnast wins the gold. I forgot her name. And then Biles got the silver.
Yes.
And Childs is on the podium for the bronze.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an iconic picture of the two of them bowing to the gymnast. They all train together, so it's actually kind of funny.
It's a really actually kind of a cool photo.
It's going to be one of the photos of the Olympics.
Oh, 100%.
And I'm totally fine with it because it's that U.S. sense of humor. It's the haha, we've won this event so many times and now we're getting beat, so we have to do better. But so it's a controversial event, and then the Court of Sport Arbitration finds that her appeal to get her difficulty value changed came in 4 seconds past the cutoff point, allegedly.
Yeah, and so what Team USA is saying is that because of the way things were going, they couldn't do it in under a minute because of circumstances which were out of their control. Yeah, I don't know the specifics of it.
Neither do I.
But I know that you're technically supposed to try to correct it within a minute.
Yep.
They tried to correct it as fast as they could. Something was preventing them. Something with the setup, something with the timing, something was preventing them.
So we're going to see what the Court of Arbitration says when they get that side of the case, because
they said that Childs has to get back her bronze already.
Oh, they decided she's going to have to give it back? Or did they just move?
But the U.S. has filed an appeal.
I thought where it was is they had made it known that the Romanian gymnast was going to get a bronze medal for sure. And it was unclear whether or not she was going to have to give the bronze medal or was going to get to
they already said
medal.
that they wanted the bronze medal back. And I think Romania said that we're willing to basically go co-bronze. And the team said, we're
going to find out.
The court said no. And obviously the U.S. has filed an appeal.
Yeah, we're going to find out. So things on the gym aren't quite set, but it was a good gym session.
I mean, honestly, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. Yeah. Obviously, the U.S. is doing what they can about it.
Unfortunately, it does kind of overshadow the biggest surprise of the gym session, which is the U.S. men's team getting bronze. That hasn't happened since Beijing 2008, I think. And
that sounds about right.
They did.
I don't think they've medaled at all the last few years. It's not our fault
that China and Japan are China and Japan.
That's fair.
They're just gymnastics powerhouses. However, seeing it all go through with all the various exercises, there's 5 or 6 of them in the men's side. What it did create was one of my favorite characters of these Olympics, which is, I think it was Steven Nadorazic, also known lovingly in my heart as Captain Pommelhorse, the pommel horse specialist that the U.S. brought in exclusively to do pommel horse.
I'm pretty sure Twitter and TikTok were having a time with him.
He was a character. I remember watching the men's competition live with a couple of my friends, and we were just like, this guy has done nothing. He gets to go last in the entire competition, and they're hyping him up. They got a timer in the bottom right corner until he does his routine. They're like tagging him. They're like, oh, he's going to the warm-up room, everybody. Watch this man warm up. He's going to be amazing. And then he comes back out, and they're showing him meditating on the side while everybody else is competing. I'm like, this guy better be something special, because I was ready for Captain Pommelhorse, and he showed up. He put on a perfect routine. The U.S. won bronze, and I'm pretty sure he won the bronze medal as well in the individual pommel horse competition.
Yeah, I don't I did not follow men's gymnastics. I'm
It's
sorry
okay.
to say.
Nobody follows men's gymnastics.
There's too many events in the Olympics,
There are.
all of them are going on at the same time. So
Yeah.
at one point, I was watching 4 events at once, and even then, you cannot give all your attention to 4 at the same time.
No, but it was a fun thing to watch, and it was nice to see U.S. men's gymnastics on the map, especially because the trials for men's and women's gymnastics were held right down the street from us here in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
So
no, that was interesting. I remember watching the final night of that.
it was a little bit of a bummer that Suni Lee, the local girl, didn't win much individually. I don't think she won a single individual medal.
No, she did.
I could be wrong on that one. I often am wrong about these things.
You're definitely wrong. I know she had something.
Well, I know she got gold in the team competition, but I think she got something in like the
Wow.
uneven bars. Was it
One
the
sec,
un-
let
was it the
me.
uneven bars?
I'm
Anyway,
trying to find out.
Anyway,
Give me a second.
I will move on to the last thing we want to talk about in the Olympics, and you can interject whenever you find the information you need to prove me wrong, as this conversation of the Olympics crests into its 20th minute.
Well, we don't have much to talk about in the hockey
That's-
world. Let's
that's
be
true.
real.
That's
I wish
true.
we had more.
We're getting there. But this is the thing. We're not going to have Olympics talk for another 18 months until the Winter Olympics starts.
Can I interject real
Yes.
quick? I am so excited for that.
Oh, yeah. We are going to be talking about the Winter Olympics so much, especially when it comes to the hockey tournament.
I cannot wait. I don't mind the Summer Olympics.
They're
I
fun.
love the Winter Olympics. I can
Yeah.
just turn it on. Like if I'm up at 6, 7, 8 in the morning and I have nothing to do, I will just turn it on and watch whatever event is on.
The Winter Olympics is so good. Speed skating, downhill skiing, the hockey tournament, curling. A gold medal was won by a curling team from like Eveleth, Minnesota or something. It was like
No, I know.
Eveleth or Gilbert or something.
Curling is actually like everyone. It's so underrated.
I met those guys.
Of course,
I
you
met
have.
that curling team.
That doesn't surprise me.
They're
So,
cool.
Suni Lee,
Okay,
1 gold for team all around,
good.
1 bronze for artistic individual all around,
Okay, cool.
and bronze for uneven bars.
Okay, so she won some medals.
Yeah,
That's
I knew
good.
you were wrong the second you opened your mouth. I'm sorry.
I often am. Okay.
I had to fact check that on the spot.
Last about the Olympics. Last about the Olympics. We have to talk about the people that Noah Lyles, whom we opened this segment with, called out after the 2023 World Track and Field Championships.
Can you give context?
I'm giving context.
Thank you.
So, the World Track and Field Championships happened around the same time as the NBA Final. And Lyles won his world championship in the 100 meter and was asked who he had as who he had winning the NBA Final. And he went off on this now infamous or famous, whatever camp you come from, tirade how it's not fair that NBA champions get to call themselves the world champions. Champions of the world, just America. Because, it's not necessarily the world championship. And so a few NBA stars, primarily LeBron James, U.S. flag bearer for these Olympics, took that one personally. He assembled, I guess you could call it the Dream Team Part 2, and they came to Paris with a mission to win their gold medal and shut him up. And as of yesterday, that journey was complete. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at my own notes because I wrote this last night when I was incredibly tired and not exactly focusing on what I was writing. The Team USA was led by our flag bearer, LaGeorge Washington, or Le Captain America, as Dwayne Wade called him on the broadcast for the semifinals and the gold medal game. They found their way past Serbia in one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. Like, this was like Miracle on Ice, but for basketball kind of thing. U.S. was down 17 points or something in the fourth quarter. And I know, I just offended like the entire Miracle crowd.
You just offended me.
I love that movie, but like I have to
but
appeal to the people who don't like hockey.
James. Yeah, but LeBron James, bro.
Yeah, I know. It's a little different than amateurs beating the Soviet Union, but at the same time,
Yeah,
it
you're
was-
talking about people that came from college or that were not well known.
It was a good comeback. Okay.
It was a really good game.
It was a good comeback, but you can't compare it to Miracle.
Okay, fine. It was a good game, though. It was a good game.
That's all I'm saying.
It was a good game. And so the U.S. makes this big comeback. They get to play for the gold medal against the host nation, France, with the former first overall pick in the NBA, Victor Wembanyama, who I'm convinced looks like the Slender Man. And he does, and he dressed up like the Slender Man for Halloween last year, which was hilarious. And ultimately, that game was also very close until Chef Curry showed up. and started hitting threes from like Calais and Dunkirk in the final 5 minutes to secure the gold medal for the United States. You can't talk about U.S. men's basketball without talking about women's U.S. basketball. They won, I think, is their 6th straight gold medal. They've won 50 some odd games in a row. They haven't lost a game in like 20 or 32 years or something. So, I mean, we can sit here and talk all we want about the dynasty that is the U.S. men's basketball team, but the women's basketball team is really the one with the dynasty. And I'd be remiss if I didn't note this. They won the gold medal, one, without breaking a sweat, and two, they did it without arguably the 2 best players in the WNBA. They did it without Angel Reese, and they did it without Caitlin Clark. So I'm just going to say it now. I'm pretty sure that dynasty is safe, at least for the next 3 Olympics.
We'll see.
I'm thinking it's safe.
It's not because I don't believe in them. It's just never say never, and you never know what's going to come out of
Good point.
anything.
That's true.
And 4 years is a very long time.
I mean, I'm all for the competition, but I also like the guaranteed gold medal. So
you like guaranteed gold medals in general. Doesn't matter the sport.
if only the U.S. could get one in hockey.
I'd trade them all.
You want a repeat of Miracle?
We're never going to get that.
I know we're not.
The only way that we get it is, for me, the only way that anything beats Miracle. Mm-hmm. And mind you, I was, let's see, that was 1980. So I didn't come along for another 21 years.
Mm-hmm. You weren't even a thought in your parents' head.
I don't even think my parents were a thought in my parents' head yet at that point.
Probably not.
My dad was 10.
So yeah, probably definitely not.
But the only thing that can make the 2026 Winter Olympics better is if Jack Eichel scores the game-winning goal for Team USA.
That's assuming he'll be on Team USA.
He's on Team USA for the Four Nations face-off, and I would imagine he will be there for the Olympics. But okay. I'm not going to put the cart before the horse because we're still 12 months away from Olympic rosters.
I mean, yeah, considering that, again, anything can happen a year of hockey.
Yeah.
People get hurt. People retire.
Yeah.
People leave the sport.
Please no.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. Not anyway. On wood right now, but
anyway. So I think that wraps up all we have to talk about on the Olympics. And so now we may as well cover 2 to 3 of the biggest news stories in the NHL.
Oh, easily.
That happened this summer. And I say 2 to 3 because that Olympic section took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. And so we're going to be conscious of time. So we're going to start with the real story of the summer that actually happened at the end of last regular season, which is the former Arizona Coyotes, currently the Utah Hockey Club, and that whole soap opera.
Yeah, I think it's worth an update.
Especially because there actually is stuff to update that's happened in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about or don't really care about the Arizona Coyotes, which is 31 franchises, the Arizona Coyotes don't exist anymore. They
on paper
and in practice, they don't exist anymore, period.
They still do, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there. So the date is April 19th, 2024. And their owner, Alex Meruelo, sells the team to the NHL and to the Smith Group in Utah for $1.2 billion. Not only has that one set how much it's going to cost to add an expansion team to the NHL, but that's a $1 billion profit for the owner because he bought the team for a little less than $300 million at the turn of the millennium. So he sells it to the Smith Group, who also own the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, and before this, there was speculation that Arizona was getting bought by Utah
or moved to Houston or
there was
Kansas
a lot of
City.
Speculation about what was happening because they couldn't secure a stadium.
Oh, the stadium! I was a huge fan of Mullet Arena. I almost put in the paperwork to trademark the Shadow Dome as an official IP because that was the only building in the NHL where you could see shadows. It's a great stadium for Arizona State, not so much for the NHL, and I wanted so badly for the Coyotes to make the playoffs so the NHL would have to try and make Mullet Arena work as a playoff venue. They had 2 chances and they missed out on them both. So I'm a little bit bummed that we're never going to get the optics.
You know what? I think it's for the best.
It is for the best, but it'd have been funny. It'd have been so funny. And you can't tell me.
You're basically saying that they should have done it for the plot.
They should have done it for the plot. It'd have been funny. I mean, they let the Knights go all the way to the Cup final in their expansion year for the plot.
Moving on.
Anyway.
Moving on.
Anyway, so the team is sold to the Smith Group, and it was part part of the move was leverage that Salt Lake City was going to build a new hockey stadium to try and secure a spot in the 2034 Winter Olympics. And as we have since found out, they were successful in securing that bid. So in a decade, we're going to get an Olympics here at home in the States. And assuming I'm alive in 10 years at the ripe old age of 33, I will definitely be wanting to go to see that Olympics. But that's a decade from now.
I feel like that would be fun.
We'll cross it when we get to it. But as of now, they'll be playing out of the Delta Center, which is where the Jazz play. And they're going to get that new stadium eventually. In exchange for agreeing to sell the team to the Smith Group, Meruelo was promised that if he was able to secure land and funding for a new stadium by like the beginning of 2025, he'd get to keep the Coyotes. So realistically, there were 33 teams in the NHL for a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's also important to note that I don't know if it's the owner or the NHL, but someone kept the trademark for Arizona Coyotes. So Utah does not own that.
No, Utah has its own history. At this time in the story, Meruelo still had all the trademarks, the logos, the patents, and the history of the Coyotes, and he was trying to get a piece of land to build a new stadium. And the NHL guaranteed that if he did that within 5 years, they'd give him first dibs on an expansion team.
Basically, if you solve the stadium issue, you get your team back in 5 years.
And you get to use your trademarks that you used before.
Right.
So there was a new site in northern Phoenix that they had their eyes on, and they were expecting that they were going to win that site at auction because that's how all government lands. I'm pretty sure right now it's a toxic waste dump. And if it isn't, it's just a slice of desert.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the land is currently, and I'm not going to speculate.
It's undeveloped land, and
it's land that you could easily turn into a stadium.
Yeah.
And
so that auction was supposed to happen on June 27th, and they were the only suitor. That wasn't until June 21st when the ASLD, the Arizona State Land Department, canceled the auction. Now, we originally thought that it was just because there was no interest. Turns out, they realized that the Coyotes group and Meruelo didn't acquire the permits needed to propose enough to purchase the land that they were trying, and they didn't have the permit to build the stuff they were going to build if they won the land, so they couldn't have the auction in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, permits.
They're kind of important.
Permits kill everything, honestly.
And unfortunately, because they were the ones who screwed up, and we figured this out because of what their owner did next, which is sell all the IP back to the NHL.
So now the NHL has the Coyote IP.
And there's only 32 teams in the league again, as was intended.
Mm-hmm.
We found out that because they screwed up, they probably lost all their rights to challenge legally the ending of the auction because they screwed up themselves. So it was a mess. It was a total mess.
When being law students pays off.
Oh dear God. However, there is some happy at the end of this story, because Coyotes owner, he's not the greatest owner in all of sports. He's made more in the last year than I will make in my entire lifetime.
Well, and it seems like he kind of pissed people off.
I mean, he forgot to pay his taxes in Glendale.
Yeah, which is why he got kicked out of his stadium.
They got kicked out. It looks like there is a new suitor. And not a new Ryan Suter, just a new suitor for the Coyotes, or whatever they'll be called when they come back, and that's the owner of the Phoenix Suns, Matt Ishba, as reported by ESPN on July 24th. He's now looking to work with the NHL to expand the NHL to Phoenix again.
I'm wondering if the fact that they had to move because of a stadium issue, which, fun fact, actually, that's why the Lakers left Minnesota back in the 1950s, I believe.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't have a stadium.
Well, yeah, they didn't have Target Center yet.
Well, yeah, that was built way later. But my point still stands that this has happened multiple times throughout sports history in general.
Yeah, and also the Coyotes, and with that ownership group, they couldn't ever do anything right, it felt like.
No, I mean, I will say their rebranding was kind of dope.
That is the one thing they got right. And that's something I'm really sad that we're going to lose is their logo.
But I guess my question is, with the whole 5-year promise, do you think that the NHL will hold that up? Because Arizona is a big market.
Well,
or at least a decent sized one.
it's unknown because, well, for starters, that deal was made. That deal, and I guess we can call it a contract for the sake of discussion.
I think it would warrant a contract.
For the ease of discussion, we'll call it a contract. It was made with somebody who now broke their part of the contract. They're not the owner anymore. They're not.
Well, I mean, did he break the contract because he couldn't secure the specific parcel of land, or did he break the contract by selling the IP back to the NHL?
I think that was the breakage.
The second part?
Yeah, he gave up. He dissolved.
Yeah, but if he gave up and they already promised potentially that Phoenix will be back in 5 years if they can figure out their stadium issues, does that warrant a conversation about bringing specifically the Coyotes team back to Arizona?
I think he just got tired of the league. He took his ball and he went home. And probably
honestly, I think the league got tired of him. But
I mean, I don't exactly think Bettman liked him that much. Granted, Gary.
This is all speculation, though.
Yeah, Gary Bettman's got his own issues. Like, yeah, he did a very good job as commissioner, orchestrating this whole Coyote situation. He extended an olive branch to an owner that an owner of a team that Bettman is very fond of. I'm pretty sure that was his first expansion team. Or that was and if it wasn't his first expansion, that was the expansion market that he really wanted to work.
What, the Coyotes?
The Coyotes. He wanted the Arizona market to work really well. And oddly enough, I'm pretty sure that failure is why we have a team in Vegas right now. But that's pure speculation.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, they'll be back. I have a feeling if they come back, it'll be the Coyotes.
I think the Arizona fans will be very, very upset if they don't.
Yeah, and Arizona Coyote fans, they're awesome. Like, they're perfectly fine. I've never had issues with Coyotes fans. I've had more issues with Stars fans or Wild fans or Oilers fans.
Wild fan, that's just to get my goat.
That's fair.
And two, well, yeah, you lived in Texas, so I hope that you would. I mean, it would make sense for you to have a run-in with Stars fans.
Yeah. I was one of them for a minute, and I have since left.
Yeah, I'm very glad you did. Anyways.
Anyway. But no, of all the like the stadium dramas, I think this one's pretty set. The big thing is now going to be like what's going on with the Jets and their attendance problem, but that's a conversation for another day because nothing's happening with that yet.
And will Atlanta get their third expansion team?
Oh God, please no. No.
We'll see what happens over the next couple of years with that one.
We have teams in Calgary and Winnipeg again because Atlanta can't hold the team. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, yeah, I was just thinking also the fact that the Jets have attendance issues. Does Atlanta want them back?
No, I think here's my big conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
They're pushing for a 36-team league. That's
okay.
That's my theory.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, they're going to go for like a 36-team league, and some of the next markets will be Arizona if
stuff can get straightened out.
If things get straightened out and there's the money for it, it'll be Phoenix. Houston will be one of them. Atlanta will be one of them, and I think Hartford might get one.
Well,
Hartford might get the Whalers back, or it'll be Quebec City, but I don't think they're going to put another team in Canada.
Well, and also, like, let's think about New England, right? Maine doesn't have a team. New Hampshire doesn't have a team. Vermont doesn't have a team. Boston has a team.
Yep.
In Massachusetts.
Mass has a team. Mm-hmm. New York's got two.
But New York is New York.
Good point. They have two of everything.
Yeah. New England is actually pretty lacking in some sports teams. I mean, most of them are out of Boston or just in general Massachusetts.
So putting one in Connecticut would make sense.
I mean, maybe not Connecticut, but I think somewhere.
I mean, is there a market big enough in New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine to support
Probably
a team?
not, because a lot of those people just generally root for, like, Boston. Example, like, well, I mean, think about, like, New England Patriots. It's not Boston Patriots. So really, is it because it's a smaller geographical area?
Yeah.
But also, does it make sense to put one in Connecticut? Because, I mean, that's so close to New York. Does it make sense?
You also got to worry about the conference balancing, because I would imagine the second iteration of the Coyotes would go into the Western Conference. A team in Houston would go into the Western Conference. That would mean a team in Atlanta would probably go in the Eastern Conference. So you need another Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, but Quebec also does that.
Yeah, but nobody likes the Nordiques.
Don't say that too loudly. Oh, he's going for it now.
Nobody likes the Nordiques.
Okay, well, speak for yourself.
That's
but
fair. And for those of you who need a description, I put my microphone down dramatically, cracked my knuckles, took a nice breath in, and then pretty much yelled. But I think that puts a bow on the current understanding of the Coyotes / Utah Hockey Club situation.
I think later on we should dedicate some time in an episode to speculate on expansion and like where they might go next.
And we need to spend some time speculating about what their name's going to be, because we have a year for that.
That'd be fun. Also, real quick, you did remind me of something. PWHL names, they got pushed back.
What?
They're supposed to be released this month. Granted, we still have 2 or 3 weeks of the month left. But we should hear it in September at some point with the schedule as well. So we'll be able to talk about that hopefully soon. I know. I was excited to see what they were going to do with the names, but they've been pushed back.
I was excited too, but
as long as it gets done before the season starts,
we could have something
Yeah.
in August still. It's still fairly early in the month,
That's true.
but based on some sources, it seems like it might be September.
Yeah.
Anyways, back on track now.
Yeah, I think we got time for one more news and notes. So let's
talk about the Preds.
Let's talk about the 2025 Stanley Cup champion Nashville Predators.
I don't think they're going to go all the way.
Hey, they came in on July 1st and crowned themselves Stanley Cup champions. I think they're making the banner right now.
So you do realize, though, when you say that it kind of gives me flashbacks to people when they're like, oh, well, we won free agent day. So that automatically means that we're in line to win. It does not.
Edmonton, cough.
It does not. Like, you have a full season. Injuries do happen. Trades happen.
Yep.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things happen.
Like, I think we all forget that we love our team so much, but these players are professionals and they're going to go where either they want to be or where the money is.
I mean, not Tampa. Sorry, I got reading a little bit. Nashville didn't exactly shy away from spending money. I mean, they offered.
No, they did not.
They offered one heck of a deal to the prime, the blue ribbon of blue ribbon, blue chip of blue chip free agents in Steven Stamkos, 4 years, $8 million. They got a good defenseman, Brady Shea, 7x7, which is wow, that's a lot of money.
They dropped a lot of money on key players here.
They got Jonathan Marchessault out of Vegas, ripping the heart clean out of my chest. 5 years, $5.5 million.
Well, apparently Vegas didn't want to give him the years he wanted, so.
That's a conversation for another day.
I know. It hurts you.
Less so the more he keeps talking.
That's fair.
But, thanks for the memory, Jonathan. Next. And they shored up their goaltending from down the hall in UC Saros. 8 years, $7.74 million, making him one of the 10 highest paid goalies in the NHL. So, with that, on top of their already good roster, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, all their interesting veteran depth, are they going to make the playoffs? Do they make the playoffs?
This is hard because, as someone who is a Minnesota Wild fan, I do have some reservations about the Preds. And this is not because I'm a Minnesota fan. This is not because they're not a good team. It just seems like they can't get their act together until about midway through the season or even later. Yeah. So they usually squeak in. I think they've been a wild card spot, the last 2-3 years?
Yeah, they've made it like on the last week of the season.
Or they came in third, or it's been, they're always like in the running.
They got all the way to the final and lost to Pittsburgh, and then they've just kind of been meh ever since.
It just seems like they can't just get it together.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, something's missing all the time. Something's not right and not quite right, and you can't really put your finger on it because they have almost everything that they need to make a Stanley Cup winning team.
Well,
I said almost everything.
Yeah, but saying you almost have everything is...
But that's my point, is that there's this little bit where you just can't put your finger on it.
Well, I can put my finger on it.
Well, then, please.
They can't keep the puck out of the net. They've always struggled with it. They can't play defense. Like, Here's my one critique of the self-proclaimed winners of free agency. You didn't get a defenseman. Well, you did get a defenseman, but you didn't get a defenseman.
I mean, I think there's two different ways to play hockey, right?
The Edmonton way, which is score too many goals and outscore your mistakes.
Yes.
And what's the other way?
By playing really good defense and just scraping together some goals.
So
it's either you keep the puck out of the net or you keep the puck in the net.
So
it's one or the other.
The 24 Oilers or the 23 Knights way of playing.
Of course, you're bringing your precious Knights to this.
They have the tallest defense in the league. They block the
by
most
design.
They block the most shots
By design.
Exactly.
That's my point, though, is that you either design your team to be good around defense with some sort of competent offense that can score goals.
Right.
Or you say, to hell with defense, and you put all of your stuff into, all of your faith into a goalie that can stop as many pucks as he can and a offense that can run up the score.
Both of those strategies are flawed in some ways and great in other ways.
Oh, no. Usually teams end up somewhere in the middle.
And the thing is, usually when playoff time comes, it's the teams that prioritize defense that make it pretty far. Like that's what made the Panthers run 2 years ago all the way to the Cup final so unexpected. Was like they were getting generational goaltending from Bobrovsky, but like that was it. That was kind of all they were doing on the back end.
But that's the thing, is that if you have either a great goaltender or great forwards, you can usually make something work. That's my point that I'm trying to make.
I question the team defense on Nashville. I question their ability to stop the puck.
I have not seen enough of Nashville playing to really objectively say anything, because a lot of times, I will admit, I am watching them when they are playing the Wild, and I'm upset about how the Wild is doing, and I'm not really focused on how the Preds are playing.
That's fair. So
my focus is not usually on the Preds. Yeah. But I think that this season, I might tune into a few games and just see how they're doing, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, one of the metrics that, one of the outlets that I have some semblance of faith in being accurate, but only a little bit of semblance of faith in being accurate is Money Puck. And I don't even think they have the Preds making the playoffs. I think they have them finishing 4th or 5th in the Central Division.
Which, honestly, like, the thing is, too, is that I'm looking at who they picked up on during free agency, right? Yep. On July 1st. And they have some really big, heavy hitters. But like we said in the last podcast, have some of these people negotiated based on what they were in their prime? And do you think that they can extend their prime for another, some 5 years, some 4 years, some 7 years?
Which is, and in the case of Saros, 8 years.
Yeah, like, can you extend your prime that far
you're like
in this sport?
That's like taking out a 30-year fixed rate on a goalie. 8 years, that's his entire career probably.
I mean, it's probably at least half his career.
Yeah. Coming from the fan base who has signed arguably the worst goalie contract in the league right now. No, I'm not talking about Samsonov. I'm talking about Robin Lehner.
Okay.
And his 5-year albatross.
Okay.
That nobody's talked about because he's been tucked away. You get a goalie wrong and you're in a lot of trouble.
Well, you sign, the Wilder experiences now, granted now 13, 14-year contracts are no longer a thing in the league, but it can really hurt you, Like, we're still paying, like we said last episode, we're still paying Ryan Suter. Ryan Suter's still getting paid by Dallas this year, and he's with the Blues.
That guy has won. He has won.
No, exactly.
He's won the economics game.
But that's the thing, is that by putting this amount of money, which... Let me see. It's 5, 12, 19. Let's just say about $26 million a year.
Yeah, $26 million a year.
That's approximately $26 million
putting
per
about
year.
a quarter of your cap space in four guys.
Yeah, which you better have a plan, is all I'm going to say. You better have a plan for that.
Yeah, and especially what happens if any of these guys get hurt, because Stamkos isn't getting any younger. Marchessault's on the wrong side of 30 already with this deal.
Again, it's, can these guys extend their prime?
Yeah.
Can they play the way that Nashville needs? And is Nashville going to get lucky in the fact that they're not going to get hurt?
And are they going to get lucky if they make the playoffs in their first round opponent?
because they
Yeah.
keep finding a way to run into the buzzsaw. Like they ran into they played the Avalanche. When the Avalanche won, they took Vancouver to 7 this year and then gave up one of the most heartbreaking Game 7 goals I've seen in a long time. But Money Puck, I still find it crazy that Money Puck has them finishing behind. Here's who Money Puck has them finishing behind.
Yeah, I would love to hear this.
Dallas. That makes sense.
Yes, it does.
All
as
the way
much
to
as
the
I don't like it makes sense.
2 straight conference finals trips. That one makes sense. Mm-hmm. Colorado.
That one makes sense because they kind of have a legacy and a dynasty going. They just can't seem to finish that.
Winnipeg.
Really?
Makes sense with the goaltending. Connor,
I think
Hellebuck is Hellebuck. He's won so many. He's won Vezinas.
He's reliable. I think that's a lot to hang your hat on to have a reliable goalie. And
well, they also have all the assets they got from LA in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade. Like they got basically their entire third line. They had a lot of injuries last year, and they still found a way to get in.
That's fair. I feel like Winnipeg too. It's always like, it's almost similar to like Minnesota Wild fans where you're going to make it, but you don't know how far. Yeah. And you probably know that you're out first round, if not the second.
Speaking of Minnesota.
Hi.
That's who they have finishing ahead of the Preds too.
Really?
Yeah. I think the projection, I think you got the order wrong. I think the projection has the Wild finishing second in the Central Division behind Dallas by like 2 points.
Interesting.
They had, assuming I read this right, and assuming it hasn't changed because this was from a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. They have Dallas winning. They have Minnesota in second by like 2 or 3 points. They have Colorado in third, and they have Winnipeg in fourth, with Nashville fighting for a wild card spot in fifth.
Interesting.
I know. So
that makes me happy, but it also makes me very skeptical because I am a Wild fan. I know how this shit goes.
Yeah,
I know how this shit goes.
Yeah. But
I'm not gonna kick the football, Lucy.
But you've got Brock Faber. You got Kirill Kaprizov.
Here's my take.
You got the bus.
Here's my thing. We have decent goaltending at the very least. I can see you kind of going like this.
It depends on what flurry you get. But
no, that's why I said decent at least.
Yes.
Like at the
above
very
average.
minimum,
you
it
have
is
above
decent.
average goaltending.
Yes. We have if Brodin, Middleton, and Spurgeon can stay healthy. Which it will depend because Spurgeon definitely, I believe, had surgery on his hip.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that he had back and hip issues this past year.
Well, he took the whole year off basically, so
he tried to come back and then got injured again.
I hope.
So I really hope that they're taking their time with him.
Yeah, I hope he comes back.
I want him to.
He's one
of my favorite players in the Wild.
He's frustrating.
He's been with us forever. He's our captain. We need him in the locker room. And I believe that he had been in the locker room, but it's different when you're suiting up and putting the uniform on.
Yeah.
Than when you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sense of morale there.
Yeah.
Like we're in this together versus I have to sit in the locker room and watch you guys play.
I completely agree. I don't know. The Wild are fun.
Again, it will depend on if we can keep people off of IR. And it'll depend on if our offensive lines can be cohesive and produce consistently.
Yeah, which has always been the problem, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's. I look back on like mid 2010s Wild, and we had all the ingredients. We just couldn't figure out the recipe.
Yeah, I mean, you had Koivu, you've had Backstrom, you in net.
Well, Backstrom we had for a while. Like Backstrom had been with us for like 15 years.
And then you had this random guy nobody had ever heard of named Devin Dubnyk come in and light the world on fire. And then he got hurt.
Dubnyk.
And you guys kept running into the early 2000s or the early 2010s Blackhawks
and Blues.
Yeah. Two teams
that was rough.
Two teams that need no introduction.
I will say I do have a soft spot for the Blues, even though they kicked us pretty good.
They were fun. The David Backes, TJ Oshie, St. Louis, Alex Pietrangelo, Jay Bouwmeester Blues. That was a good time. They're not so cool anymore.
I feel like every team goes through this where they go through like almost an identity crisis.
Yeah. On the topic of the Blues, and I'm going to add this.
Yeah.
I will never forgive the NHL for not letting this happen.
Okay.
You're probably going to remember this.
I'm waiting with bated breath over here to figure out what you're going to say.
I am so mad that they didn't let Binnington and Fleury get into a fight this year because it almost happened, and I wanted it to happen so bad. And
you just want Fleury to get into a fight.
No, he's done everything. He's won Stanley Cups. He's won Vezinas. Let the man punch Binnington in the face. Just let him punch him in the face. He's done enough to this sport. He's done enough for the league. He's done enough for the Penguins. He's done enough for the Knights. He's done enough for the Blackhawks. And he's done enough for the Wild now. Let him punch someone in the face. Just let it happen. That's all I wanted. Thank you for my TED Talk.
You just love Fleury and you just want him to get everything he wants, I feel like.
It would have been funny.
Yeah, but you also are a Fleury stan.
It would have been funny. You can't tell me with a straight face that you or all of Minnesota Wild fandom would have loved to see Fleury beat the crap out of Jordan Binnington.
I think Wild fans would love to see that regardless of who's on the other side.
I rest my case.
I don't know if I would like it, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. I threw a little bit of shade at the LA Kings earlier when talking about the Jets and them trading away their entire third line for Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Yes, you did.
Who the Kings have since traded to Washington for a goaltender. I think it was Darcy Kemper. So effectively saying the Kings traded their entire third line, a few draft picks, and basically their hopes and dreams for a goalie whose claim to fame is winning the cup with the Avalanche. You know another player that the Kings could have right now if they weren't so dumb? Brock Faber.
Yep, you're right.
They could have Brock Faber.
I don't think it was dumb necessarily because they started really well last season, but they couldn't pull it together.
Who did the Kings trade Brock Faber to get?
Isn't it Fiala?
It was Kevin Fiala.
Oh my god.
They took Faber at like 45th overall, and then they're like, oh, you're this good defenseman. You've got potential, but we already have a good defenseman with potential. We already have Quentin Byfield. Let's send you to Minnesota because Kevin Fiala is the one piece we need to win the Stanley Cup. It was not the one piece they needed.
I will say that with us trading Fiala, what was it, 2, 3?
2 or 3?
Two?
I think it was
2 or 3.
2 or 3. Yeah, 2.
Yep.
Because he played...
Because it was 2022, wasn't it?
Yeah, because
so it was 2 years ago.
He played 2 games at the end of 2 seasons ago, and last year was his rookie year.
Yep.
So this is his 3rd year. So yes, it was a 2022 draft day move.
Okay, yes. So looking at that, I mean, that was kind of controversial for some people at the time to get rid of Fiala.
It worked out.
There was whisperings that there was issues between him and coaching staff, him and management, something. It seemed like that got squashed pretty quickly, throughout the year. And then I think we really just had to look at what we had, right? Like, I think it's always hard because, again, fan bases forget that this is their job. They go where the money is. They go where they want to be.
Well, the trade still made no sense. Like with the benefit of hindsight, it made no sense.
In hindsight, but that's the thing is that you don't really know what you're giving up.
Well, I mean, the Wild were in the rebuild. This was the year after the.
I would argue that we're kind of still in rebuild.
This was the year after the Parise Suter buyouts. They needed draft picks and young players, and Fiala I think he was walking towards free agency anyway. And so they wanted to get some value for him.
I think it was we were not re-signing him. I don't want to say. Yeah. I want to say he was an unrestricted free agent, but I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that.
It was either he was a UFA that summer or he was going to be a UFA the next summer, and they wanted to maximize his value because if I remember right, he had a decent year in Minnesota before getting traded.
He was a decent player. I think that he had a decent year, and I think we got into the playoffs that year, and he just didn't really produce.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's what happened. I think he had a rocky start.
That was the year you guys lost in 7 to Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the year.
Okay.
That was that season.
Okay.
When you guys got dunked on by Matthias Janmark in Game 7.
All I gotta say is that
dunked on.
Can I finish my thought, please?
Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. So I think that it's going to be interesting if we have a Minnesota Vegas face-off at some point in the playoffs.
I wanted it to happen this year.
It wasn't going to happen this year.
There are not going to be a lot of nice words.
Ian, it wasn't going to happen this year.
No.
And it probably won't happen this year.
It could.
This coming year?
I'd like it to happen.
I don't think it will.
I'd like to go to a road playoff game.
I mean, that's fair. I do have half-season tickets.
Anyway.
That's going to be fun. That's going to be so much fun this year. I mean, I really mean it.
Hey, I've already got the calendar circled. I think it's December 16th and March 25th are the 2 times that Vegas is here in the Twin Cities.
I know it's in December.
I think it's December 15th.
We're definitely going to that game.
It's either the 15th or the 16th, and we just have to pray that we don't have finals that night.
We won't have finals that night. We might have it that day, but we won't have it that night.
I think it's a matinee start, too. I could be wrong, but I think it's a 4 o'clock start. We'll cover it later. Mm-hmm. No, I went down the rabbit hole because I wanted to find something to counter this Faber trade from back in the day. And I wanted to find something that I could compare it to in Knightsland. And we didn't do any major draft day trades because I don't count any of the expansion draft trades because that's not fair.
No.
That's easy. The closest thing I could come up to was when the Knights traded Eric Holla to the Hurricanes in exchange for the guy who had just won the Calder Cup. And
I miss Eric Holla.
I do too. He was fun.
I'm still upset that he left Minnesota. I'm so upset that he left Minnesota.
Hey, you guys wanted to protect Matt Dumba.
Holla would have been a
You
better
guys
pick,
protected
but
Dumba.
I get it.
We'll do a trade tree, but I will explain to you. I've explained this to you plenty of times off the air, but I will explain it on the air. That it is the Minnesota Wild's fault that the Knights were able to get Jack Eichel.
Yeah, but I don't remember that decision tree.
I'll do it on air next time.
Okay.
But the closest thing I could come to this team getting rid of a player that turned out to be really good and didn't get what they expected on the back end is the Knights trading Holla to Carolina in exchange for Nick Waugh, who's now our 3rd-line center. Or who was our 4th-line center, won the Stanley Cup. Now he's up to the 3rd line because of all the trades. But that doesn't quite have the same ring to it as,
No, it
by the
doesn't.
way, LA traded the guy who came in second in the Calder race and just made bank for the next 8 years.
Again, I think that with his $8 million contract or 8-year, $8 million?
8.5.
8.5 starting next year.
It's gonna look great in 5 years.
I'm hoping that he can start paying off within 2.
Easy.
So
We'll be able to tell within the first 40 games of this coming season if he's ever going to live up to that contract. And I think he will. Minnesota needs him to.
we really do,
Yeah,
but
you
we
really
also
do.
need to get more younger defensemen in there. But I
Give it time.
digress.
Give it time.
I
You
know.
guys got rid of Duhaime.
I know.
So anyway,
Yep.
I think that's all we have time to talk about on this episode. What do you
Yeah.
think? Any parting words?
Go Wild.
I can't argue with that.
No.
Thanks for lending us your ears for the last hour and 3 minutes.
Please don't forget to subscribe.
I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. Comment down below if you want to, 1, correct me on my Olympics, 2, tell me I'm wrong for being a Knights fan, or 3, share some sympathy for the plight that is the Minnesota Wild and their very shallow pockets. I say as I get a look of sarcasm across the room.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, guys.